Kynria, huh? You sure know a lot. The legacy of Kynria is long gone. The sinners are all that's left, and they're not worth mentioning.
All those scholars in the academia are prime examples.
I am back with another guide, boys. Today we are going to build Feeble Scholar. He is one of the best close combat fighter in the game we have right now, and the strongest Dendro DPS we have in the game for now. So let's talk about how his kit works. The most important talent in his kit is his elemental skill. His element skill does two things. First, it will generate 2 chisel mirrors and it will deal Dendro damage. His whole gameplay depends on these mirrors, and each mirror will last for 4 seconds. As long as you have this mirror, his every attack will deal Dendro damage, and his elemental skill's damage depends on his attack and elemental mastery. When you have this mirror, he will unleash a projection attack every 1.6 seconds, and it will do different attacks depending on how many mirrors you have. And only 3 mirrors can exist at once. His elemental skill cooldown is 18 seconds, and normally his elemental skill can generate 2 mirrors at a time. And those will last for 8 seconds, but the first passive changes everything, because every 12 seconds he can create a mirror by doing charge or plunging attack. That means his elemental skill will last for 12 seconds. This passive is very good for him. As we can see, he has 3 mirrors now, and with that his projection attack will also change. His elemental skill cooldown is 18 seconds, but with this passive his elemental skill can last for 12 seconds, and that leaves a gap of only 6 seconds. But this passive can create a mirror every 12 seconds. That means once your combo is over you can create a mirror again, and that will only leave a 2 seconds gap. This is why this passive is mad for Alhaitham. The next thing you need to level up is his elemental burst, and its damage is based on his attack and elemental mastery. His element burst does 2 things. A binding field is created by his elemental burst, which also does AoE Dendro damage, and how many attacks it can do will depend on how many mirrors you had before using it. It will make 10 attacks if you had 3 mirrors before using it. It will make 8 attacks if you had 2 mirrors, and 6 attacks if you had 1, and it will make 4 attacks if you don't have any mirrors. As you can see, he had 3 mirrors before his elemental burst, and after that he didn't generate any mirror. So this is how it works. And the second thing it does is create mirrors, and the number it can produce is determined by how many mirrors you already had when you used his elemental burst. If you use 3 mirrors, it will not create any. If you use 2, then it will create 1. And if you used 1, then it will create 2. And if you used 0, then it will create 3. To put it simply, it will provide you with a mirror that you didn't use for elemental burst. He didn't had any mirrors before using his elemental burst, that's why he generate 3 mirrors after that. If you have 3 mirrors after using elemental burst, then you can deal Dendro damage for 12 seconds, and once it's over, you can use your element skill and charge attack to create 3 more, that way you can do Dendro damage for 24 seconds. Now his normal attacks are as important as his skill and burst. You must level it up, because his mirrors deal Dendro damage and that damage comes from his normal attacks, so at least you should level it up to 6. For each point of Alhaitham's elemental mastery, this passive increases his projection attacks and elemental bursts damage by 0.1%. Although this passive isn't all that great, it will improve your overall damage. Using Alhaitham when creating resources for weapon ascension will give you a 10% chance of obtaining double the product. His C1 will reduce the cooldown of his elemental skill by 1.2 seconds every time you strike the opponent with a projection attack, and you can activate this effect every 1 second. So you can use his elemental skill for 12 seconds, and his projection attacks hit every 1.6 seconds, giving you 7.5 projection attacks. That means he can reduce his elemental skill cooldown by 9 seconds. In other words, at his C1, you can keep using his elemental skill without worrying about its cooldown. This is a decent consolation because his damage comes from his element skill, but it's not remarkable, but just good. Because some weapons can remove the cooldown on elemental skills, this consolation is just slightly efficient. Every time you generate a mirror, his C2 will increase his elemental mastery by 50 for 8 seconds. This can be stacked up to 4 times. Because the maximum number of mirrors he can have at one time is 3. This way, you can increase your elemental mastery by 150. But if you make another mirror after the first one is gone, you can have 200 elemental mastery for 3 seconds, but you can have nearly 50 additional element mastery for him all the time. If you're asking why this is a consolation, I'm not sure. Because having a buff like this as a consolation makes no sense. C3 increases his elemental talent level by 3. C4 depends on his elemental burst and how it was used. It will do 2 things. Each mirror that you used for your elemental burst, it will increases all party members' elemental mastery by 30 for 15 seconds. The second impact is determined by the number of mirrors you have after using his elemental burst. For each mirror you have, it will increases Alhaitham's Dendro damage by 10% for 15 seconds. So, if you use 3 mirrors for his elemental burst, each member of your party will gain 90 elemental mastery. 90 elemental mastery is nothing much. This constellation isn't bad, but it's not quite good enough to be on C4. It would make perfect sense if it was on C1. His C5 will increase his elemental burst talent level by 3. His C6 does 2 things. After using his elemental burst, he will generate 3 mirrors after 2 seconds. It will not matter how many mirrors he had before using his elemental burst. Even if he used 3 mirrors for his elemental burst, he will still generate 3 mirrors. The second effect is that it increases your crit rate by 10% and crit damage by 70%. For each mirror Alhaitham generates when he possesses all 3 mirrors. In other words, his elemental burst will give you 3 mirrors, and if you use his elemental skill after that, you will generate 2 mirrors, and if you use a charged attack, you will have 3. And every mirror will grant you this bonus for 6 seconds. This crit buff will last for 18 seconds if you use 3 mirrors. His C6 is quite effective, making him the best dendro damage dealer in the game for the time being. Now, let's talk about artifacts. His whole damage depends on attack and elemental mastery, but elemental mastery matters most. So for Sands, you need to have elemental mastery, that is a must. It can be any artifact set, but you need to have element mastery on Sands, and for Goblet you need a dendro damage goblet, and for Circlet you can go with crit rate or crit damage. It will depend on what you need. The first set we are going to try is 2 pieces of the elemental mastery set. I am using a Wanderer, but you can use any other set with elemental mastery that has more crit value. And the other 2 pieces is Gladiator set for more attack. Again, you can use any other 2-piece set with an attack that gives you more crit value. His skill damage was around 12,000, and projection damage was always around 5,900, and burning damage is 937. The next combination is 2 pieces of elemental mastery set and 2 pieces of Deepwood for more dendro damage. His elemental skills didn't crit even with a 61% crit rate, but his projection attacks are now doing 6,500. Now it's 600 more than last set, and burning reaction is 1106. The next combination is 2 pieces of elemental mastery set for more elemental mastery. Again, even with a 75% crit rate, his elemental skills didn't crit. His projection attack damage is around 5,900 and burning damage is 1094. We're now using a full Deepwood set. Now he's doing around 7,500 projection damage, which is the most we've seen so far. This artifact set will work great if you have good crit value on it. The next set is a Gilded Dream set. Gilded Dreams will also work great with him, but again you need to have good crit value. The most projection damage he caused was around 6,200. It's not that bad. It is 1,300 less than Deepwood. The next set is 4 pieces of Gladiator.
Here you are.
The most projection damage we saw was 6,400. So, for artifacts, you can use any of the combinations I showed, but you must have a high critical value on it. You must have at least 250 elemental mastery on him, and your average crit value should be between 50 and 150. You don't really need to use 4-piece artifact set, you can go with 2-piece set. Just go with the one, which gives you better crit rate and damage. Now let's move to the next part of this video, and I will show you different weapons work. There are many weapons we can use, because there are many weapons that give crit value as sub-status. The first weapon we will use is the weapon rich people use, the Black Sword.
No, my sword! Stand with me! I'll settle this!
Deflect. Here you are.
The biggest damage we saw was 20,000, but there are a lot of numbers showing up, so that's why you need to have good elemental mastery on him. And it only took him 27 seconds to finish this.
Well now.
The next weapon is the Black Cliff. You can buy this weapon at a shop. So as a free-to-play player, you need to get this weapon for Alhaitham for sure. This is his best free-to-play weapon. His elemental skill didn't do more damage than the Black Sword, but it only took him 23 seconds to finish it. That means his normal attack did more damage than the Black Sword. If you don't have anything else, you can use this or Iron Sting. Any of those weapons will work. Of course, it's not good as crit value weapon, but it has good sub status and it deals good damage.
Rain outlines your fate.
The next weapon is the sacrificial sword, and it feels like cheating using this sword on Alhaitham. It doesn't give elemental mastery nor does it give critical value.
The process of elimination. Flicker.
So he used his elemental skill 4 times in 40 seconds, and elemental burst 2 times, and in just 40 seconds he created 18 mirrors. If this is not a cheat effect, then I am not sure what is. So these were all the 4-star weapons he can use. And his best weapon is his signature weapon or 3 other 5-star weapons that give crit value as sub-status. If you have any of those weapons, then you should use them, because it will give you more damage for sure. Now, let's talk about teams. So this is the best team for him. You can use Yelan instead of Xingqiu if you want. This combination is best for him, and I will show you how it works.
Make yourselves a move. Rain cutter. I'll settle this. Stand with me.
The process of elimination. Flicker.
As you can see, this team is doing great damage and it only took 26 seconds to kill these monsters with a 4-star weapon. No one on this team has 5-star weapon. You can use Traveler if you don't have Nihida. It will work well, but not well as Nihida. See for yourself.
Body and witness the power of Guwa. I'll settle this. The bond is strong.
Scatter. Flicker. Well now.
Traveler needs his elemental burst to apply Dendro, and it doesn't last longer than Nihida's elemental skill. That's the only difference between the Archon and the Archon Savior. But if you are using an energy recharge weapon on Traveler, then you will not run out of elemental burst as you saw. And it took 20 seconds more, but if you don't have Nihida, Traveler is your best support, because his elemental burst covers a big area just like Nihida, and it will apply Dendro to everyone, till it's on field, and if you are using energy recharge weapon on him, then you can have his element burst always full. Little stuff like this makes him very useful on this team. So you can use this team as well, since Raiden Shogun can apply Electro and Baiju's elemental burst can apply Dendro. If you are thinking about how good this team is, then judge that for yourself after watching it.
Time to act.
Remember, health comes first.
As long as you have Baiju in team, Alhaitham's health will not get lower than 50%, and once Alhaitham is done then you can switch to Raiden for quick elemental burst damage, but because of that, in this team you have 2 DPS.
Well now.
Witness the power of Guwa.
So this team is just good as Dendro Traveler. If you think that Baiju and Traveler are not good, then you are wrong. It's just Nihida is that good as Dendro support. This team is also good for Alhaitham. It does nothing but increase his damage. But if you think who is better for him, Bennett or Kuki, then the answer is Kuki. Because her elemental skills doesn't have cooldown. Once it's over, all you have to do is use it again. And for Bennett, his elemental burst can't move, and it will be not full every time after he uses it. But since he is Bennett, so you can use him if you want. Again, if you are thinking of using Tainari, then he will not be good as Nihida or Traveler. The reason for that is, his elemental skill can't cover a big area, and it will gone in halfway of Alhaitham's elemental skill. And his elemental burst is pure damage. Dendro will not stay on mobs for long after Tainari uses it. And it's the same thing with Kali and Yao Yao. So just use Traveler. You don't need to look for anyone else, just go with Traveler. The last team I will show you is the Bloom team. Again, you can use Yelan and Coco if you have.
Let's dance.
This is just pure chaos. If nothing else, this is good for the eyes. Now there are a lot of combinations that I showed. You can go with another Electro character like Lisa or Oz, but it will not work well, like Kuki and Traveler. See for yourself.
Flicker.
So the damage is not as much as we saw with Kuki, but again, it's not like we are doing Abyss every day. Even with Lisa as support, Alhaitham can kill anything in the open world. So this is how you can build your Alhaitham. He is just a feeble scholar with 6 packs. Make sure to subscribe for more Genshin Impact guides. So this is it for today guys. I will see you again in the next build video.